10 years. I have been alcohol-free for one whole decade. I remember when even 6 months or a year of sobriety was just a dream. And to be honest, oftentimes it felt like an impossible dream. With every relapse, the sense of failure was just too much to bear. But yet here I am at this incredible milestone. Wow. I'm really grateful. Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. I'm Jess and you're watching Living Free. And if this is your first time visiting, this is where we address the things that can get us stuck in life, along with strategies and inspiration to overcome them. But today I'm going to talk about something a little bit different. I'm going to share with you my quitting alcohol story. I'm also going to share a little bit about what it was like to suddenly live life from a sober standpoint and confronting face to face the very things that I had numbed out for all of those years of drinking. In the early 2000s, I was pretty much a non-drinker. I was really involved in my church and just believed that alcohol was bad. It was evil. I had drank occasionally as a teenager and as a young adult, but, when I devoted myself to the idea of God and the church, I steered clear of any behavior that wasn't in alignment with presenting myself as a good Christian. I was also an active duty Marine, married to another Marine. We met years earlier in our MOS school, and we married shortly after our careers began. We also had a son soon after. So life was not easy as a dual military couple. The stress of that lifestyle included overseas assignments, unaccompanied tours, deployments to combat zones, and tag team parenting. And we were just two people who were never really compatible, but we ended up together anyway. I held on to my faith as much as I could. I created my whole identity around being a good, faithful Christian wife. But eventually, the marriage problems became too much to bear, and the foundation of my faith began to crumble. And I stopped believing that God was going to save my marriage. And I really felt resentful for all that I had endured for the sake of my marriage. I actually just turned my back on God, or at least my idea of God that I had at the time. And I started to drink. A glass of wine made being home bearable. 2 glasses, well, even better. Hell, a whole bottle made the whole world disappear for a while. The evolution from a glass of wine to a bottle of wine happened so fast, and it started to become just my daily thing. It was my go-to after a hard day at work, and my way of not feeling bad while I was at home with my family. And eventually, it wasn't wine anymore. Vodka was a favorite because it got the job done faster. I was still able to function at work. I was excelling in fitness, got promoted, was being recognized for hard work, still racing my bike. I was functioning until I wasn't. And my marriage came to an end. The writing on the wall was clear. The betrayal and lies had been maxed out. It was a dysfunctional, codependent relationship that probably never should have been, but it was for 17 years. And I grieved the end of it, and I drank more and more, and I blamed myself for not being a good enough wife. But simultaneously, I hated myself for not being brave enough to end it sooner, as I had been the subject of this betrayal. What the hell was wrong with me? After the divorce, I still had strong ties with my now ex, even sharing the same roof for a time, and my drinking was out of control. I could barely manage my life and my career anymore. I just told myself, well, I'm only depressed. I just need to find happiness. I finally got the opportunity to deploy to Iraq, and I was really excited to deploy for a whole 13 months. This was my chance to escape and have a new start. Alcohol simply isn't allowed in a combat zone, so this was going to be my salvation from drinking, and I could focus on my career and expand my focus beyond my problems. However, I had not acknowledged that I was an alcoholic. I was still using depression as my reason for drinking so much. So I deployed, and taking that break from alcohol was really great. But going cold turkey on the booze ignited an old habit of smoking that I had given up several years before. It's funny how many people smoke on deployment. Luckily, I gave that up within 6 months. And I didn't think about alcohol while I was there, and I was feeling so much better. Now, I hadn't really planned on giving alcohol up completely, maybe just managing it better, maybe being that occasional drinker, which certainly would be easier if I'm in a better mental state, right? After 13 months in Iraq, I was back in the States, and I'll tell you, my attitude was not good. I wanted to be back in Iraq more than anything, and that's all I could think about. At home, I was dealing with the same problems that I had before I left, the same ex, the same unresolved issues within myself, and now an 18-year-old son who was just going down the wrong path. I thought about dating, but when I tried, I found myself immediately pushing these people away. Now, I absolutely did not want to bring baggage into a new relationship. And I was drinking a lot again. I started having very dark thoughts about ending my life, how I should start getting my affairs in order. I kept going back to those thoughts every day during my morning commute. At first, it scared me. But then I started letting those thoughts linger there more and more. Whew, okay. I was barely keeping my head above water. On the outside, life should have been great. I had a brand new house. I had the car of my dreams, everything I could ever want. But every single time I woke up from blackout drinking, I was disappointed that I was still here. And I had to get through the torture of another day. So at this point, I was eligible to request retirement from the military, and that would put me at 20 years and the time that I needed to get my retirement pay as a Master Sergeant or an E8. But I had to endure 9 months before I was out, and after that, I felt like I was either going to die or I was going to get better. I really loved being a Marine, and I always prided myself on being a good one. But that identity was slipping away into the darkness of my drinking and my depression. I just wanted to disappear. No parades, no accolades. I just wanted to be gone. Finally, that day came, and I was out. I was free. I was sad and excited at the same time. I had been a Marine since I was 18 years old. What will be next? It was the only life I knew. I was hoping that this newfound freedom would inspire me to get my shit together. I was enrolled in college to finish the degree that I had been working on for years. I bought a Harley-Davidson motorcycle and started learning how to ride it. And I was just thinking these distractions would help me. And they did to some degree because I didn't kill myself. About 4 years after retirement, I'd already had my first civilian job that I quit, a failed business venture with my son, and graduate school. I realized that the only thing keeping me depressed at this point was my drinking. I finally admitted out loud to myself that I was a full-blown alcoholic, and I started to look for recovery resources online. This included reading books about, overcoming addiction. I tried various regimens, vitamins, you name it. I did this for about 2 years. I had finally accepted at this point that I just needed to do more. I was so discouraged. I had more day ones than I could count. I was also approaching the age where my mother died at 44. And I really felt like I was going to have the same fate as her if I didn't quit. And I was about to turn 43 myself. She passed away from complications due to her alcoholism. So I looked up in-person meetings with an organization called Women for Sobriety. It was a program I was familiar with because it just really resonated with me. I gathered up the courage to go in, and for the very first time, I admitted to other human beings that I had a problem quitting alcohol. And I experienced no judgment, just encouragement and understanding, and I just felt huge relief. So, on the way home, I stopped to pick up a bottle. It's wild how the addicted brain works. I went home, drank myself to sleep. Suddenly, it was about 11 p.m. or so. I woke up in a panic. I felt like my heart was just going to jump out of my chest. It literally felt like an emergency was happening. And I went to the bathroom mirror and I looked at myself and I was holding a half-empty bottle of vodka. This was it. I knew that if I didn't dump it down the drain right now, I was going to drink it in the morning. And I eventually was going to end up dead. So I turned it upside down and that was it. Down the drain. Done. Forever. I knew I was done because this time it felt different from all the other times that I had dumped a bottle. That was 10 years ago. Of course, it wasn't all rainbows and unicorns after that. The work of facing my inner stuff was just beginning. But it's all grace. Everything. All that tough stuff that makes you want to end it all. Out of all the mess, a precious gift can appear. But we have to find the willingness to be here. The willingness to be embodied. To not give up. And to accept how and what life will teach us. So I'm still growing and will continue to grow for the rest of my days, learning from the lessons as they appear in life. You know, my happy places in nature. I love to camp. I love to ride my motorcycles. I love backpacking in the Sierra Mountains. I love mountain biking. You know, those are things that really help me be in touch with life. I'm happily married to my person, my best friend. I have forgiven myself, my ex, those in my past, and I know life is going to present challenges. But I also know that I can navigate them with a sober and clear mind, with a powerful sense of presence and being. My other videos address the journey forward after quitting alcohol. My friends, if you are struggling, please don't give up, no matter how dark it gets. Thank you for being with me here today and letting me share my story.